Welcome to part 2 of this enthralling, captivating series. Now, the photograph I'm about to show you is so dramatic, so amazing, that I'm willing to wager you that you cannot find another photograph from Kenyan politics that is more dramatic than this particular photograph. Okay? Now here it is in front of your screens now. This was Kisumu 1969. October 25th, 1969. That's when this particular dramatic photograph was taken. In the photograph, you can see men going for their guns. Those men are the security personnel of the President of the Republic of Kenya, at that time, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta. Moments after this photograph was taken, those guns started firing into the crowd, and very many people were killed. Up to this day, the information on the exact number of poor innocent Kenyans killed in that crowd is still classified information, including young school children who had come to entertain the visiting president. You can see in the photograph there's a security personnel still holding a chair. That chair is what triggered the bloodbath. Somebody from the crowd threw a chair towards the president. It was caught in midair by that particular security personnel, and that's what was the signal for the president's personal guards, bodyguards, and security personnel to go for their guns and start firing in the crowd. Now, there's plenty of evidence to suggest that this whole event was stage managed. And the purpose of stage managing it was so that the government would have a very good excuse to ban the Kenya People's Union. The Kenya People's Union was the party which belonged to former Vice President at that time, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. Now, in the last episode, we talked about the spirited American attempts to remove all Russian influence from Kenya. The person incidentally was used was Tom Mboya, and when he started his fight against, political fight against Jaramogi, everybody knew the two were rivals, and nobody thought or nobody guessed that Tom Mboya was not acting alone. Anyway, that particular spirited attempt succeeded. Jaramogi was forced out of the vice presidency, actually was forced to resign, and a new vice president, Joseph Murumbi, was appointed. Now, at the time this photograph was taken, the country was going to a general election that December. And of course, KANU was set to face off with the only opposition party at that time, Kenya People's Union. Now, this particular opposition party was of course heavily funded by the Russian government still. Now, my apologies if I lose any of you because I have to go through this part very quickly. You can catch the rest of it in detail in my series Tom Mboya New Evidence. It has got all these facts in great detail. You'll be able to catch everything in great detail. But the long and short of it was that this Kisumu incident was just the third part of a major intelligence operation, maybe the biggest intelligence operation ever seen in the region. And the whole idea was to secure the future of the country called Kenya. Now, the future of Kenya was going to be secured by neutralizing a very influential community that was a threat to the government of Jomo Kenyatta. This community was the Luo. The operation had started with the assassination of one Agwings Kodek. Agwings Kodek was the first Kenyan black to qualify as a lawyer. He qualified in the UK. Okay? At that time, he was Minister of Foreign Affairs in the government, very influential Luo man. He was assassinated along the road that is today named after him, Agwings Kodek Road, in the Kilimani area. Initial reports had said he was in a road accident. The car in which he supposedly had the road accident was never recovered, never seen, never shown. After the government of Mwai Kibaki took over 30 years later, it was finally released. The government finally released information that actually Agwings Kodek did not die from the injuries of a road accident. He was shot and killed by a police-issued rifle. That information came out recently. Okay, clear assassination. The next assassination was that of Tom Mboya, which happened on 5th July 1969 on the streets of Nairobi. And now this was the third part of that operation. And the whole idea was to completely neutralize the Luo community. There was a next part of this operation, which is what we're going to dwell on today, or in this particular part of this series. And that part of the operation was to use propaganda to completely downplay the Luo community so that there would be no way that the community would be able to rise and get national support countrywide and get national support of any political nature that would be able to threaten the government of Jomo Kenyatta. It was as simple as that. And that is the origin of tales that we hear nowadays that were initially propaganda but now are taken by a very large of the Kenyan population as gospel truth. Statements like, oh, Wajaluo ni wajinga, oh, Wajaluo are tairi, oh, Luos can never lead Kenya, oh, Luos are lazy, oh, Luos are whatever. Yeah, that is where all that came from. It was part of an operation, very deliberate, of the government of Jomo Kenyatta to completely neutralize the Luo community so that there would never be anything, there would never ever be a threat to the government. Now let us look at this from the other side. This was a young Kenyan government, and what they're seeking was prosperity. They were seeking stability in the country, and it is true that they achieved the objective 1000%. Because looking at some of our neighboring countries, they went into civil war. Some neighboring countries had coups every other year. There was a lot of turmoil. Kenya remained an island of peace. It was no accident. We're looking at it from their point of view. It was no accident because they carefully thought out all the scenarios. Yeah, the intelligence community carefully thought out all the scenarios and reorganized the country in such a way that peace was assured for many years. Peace at the expense of democracy. Peace. This peace was achieved by making sure there would never ever be any opposition to the government from a very strong community, very influential at that time, which was the Luo community. What I'm trying to say is that the other side had an argument which can look credible, yeah, to some. But my personal view is that to achieve the objective, they made Kenyans pay a price that is way too high. Because you cannot have a Kenya where a certain community is ostracized, where people can stand up and talk in broad daylight and with a straight face tell you that a certain community can never be president of Kenya. Now, I'm not a supporter of NASA, and neither am I a supporter of Raila Odinga, Jaramogi's son. Yeah? And I will never be a supporter. I am a Kenyan damu, and I'm talking as a Kenyan who believes every single Kenyan from every single community in this beautiful country of ours deserves to be called a Kenyan with equal rights with every other Kenyan. If we have in our country a certain community that is so low that it cannot produce a president, then it's not right by me. No matter what my political views are, no matter if I don't support that particular candidate, that's irrelevant here. What is relevant is that Kenya should be one country, one people, with every single community, every single individual able to stand up and stand for office and be treated as equal to any other community. That is my point, and if you cannot see it, then I'm very sad for the nation of Kenya. If not a single Kenyan can be able to see things from the point of view I'm seeing them, then as a country, we're in more serious trouble than I ever thought. Of course, this will be interpreted by some conveniently as being linked to the forthcoming polls, yeah, where we have those two communities once again up against each other for the presidency of Kenya. Indeed, some will even interpret it more directly and say that this is supposed to prepare for Raila Odinga presidency. Yeah, I really don't care what you think, but the truth, whether you want to believe me or not, is that I'm for one Kenya. Yeah, personally, those who have been following my recordings will know that I do not support either side. In fact, if you really pushed me, I'll tell you either side are not good for Kenya right now. Neither NASA nor Jubilee are good to lead Kenya right now, and I have very good reasons for that. Okay, both of them are the normal politicians. Both of them are politicians who both parties have politicians who are the same old we know, the same people who as soon as we elect them, they go to parliament or they go to the offices and forget about us as ordinary people. They will only remember us and start whispering sweet nothings into our ears when another election is around the corner. That's Kenya for you. Anyway, that is my view on this particular thing, and it's very sad. And so that is where all the hatred started. That is the hatred we are dealing with up to this day, whereby you go into social media and people are busy hurling insults at each other. You would not believe that they are from the same country. Yeah? But actually, maybe they are not. Because one side of the political divide belongs to the Republic of Gehez and the other belongs to the Republic of the Masepere. That is the reality in Kenya today. Now, in the last and final part of this series, I will give you a conclusion. And I'll prove to you why, if we do not address this problem right now, we're just postponing a huge problem for our beloved country. Just click on that link you see on the top left hand corner, and that will take you to the next part of this series. Thank you for your time so far. Please be patient as I finish the last part, and I'd love to hear your honest comments on this very important national issue. Both sides of the political divide. This is Chris Kumekucha.